Okay, hello YouTube. This is the Canadian Greek. I'm coming at you, and this will apparently be part 4 of Alert C2012S1 Ison, not what NASA says. In my previous three videos, I think I've made a pretty compelling case that NASA is not telling us the truth about Comet Ison. If you haven't seen those, go and check those out. But there's one angle that I didn't that I didn't cover in those 3 videos, and that's why I'm making this video here. And that is the electric comet. Okay, the electric comet theory gives entirely different properties to comets. So if I didn't cover this, I would be remiss. So here we go. Without further ado, because we have a lot to get through, so let's get to it. If you guys haven't seen this video, I highly recommend it. Anyways, let's listen to what it says at this point. It's important.
The explosive demise of comets cannot be due to solar heating. In fact, eruptions and comet disintegration have occurred in regions so remote from the sun that warming is not even a factor. We saw one of the most improbable flarings in the case of Comet Halley, a regular visitor to the inner solar system. In 1991, 5 years after Halley's closest approach to the sun, it was well beyond the orbit of Uranus, where temperatures hover around minus 330 degrees Fahrenheit. It erupted, producing a dust cloud 180,000 miles across. If thermal stresses are excluded, it seems that only one consideration remains. Shortly after the Halley outburst, a few astronomers began to wonder, could charged particles from the sun be a factor? At the time, solar wind activity had peaked at a higher level than had been seen in decades. Then 2 astronomers observed that the charged particles of a powerful solar flare on January 31 would have likely reached Halley around February 12, the date of the outburst. The coincidence of the outburst with that arrival seemed too great to dismiss. Could electrical events be the key to comet outbursts and fragmentation? To this day, astronomers have no explanation for the sudden and spectacular brightening of Comet Holmes in 2007. It had been moving rapidly away from the sun for about 5 months when its coma size suddenly grew by a factor of 1,000,000, making it even larger than the sun.
Okay. And basically that is what I was afraid of, that one little piece of the puzzle that I had missed. If Comet Ison was hit by any coronal mass ejections, if it was even just winged by one, it might explain a brightening of 50,000 kilometer coma for a very small object. So let's look at what I found. Okay, first of all, we have to understand how to calculate the speed of a coronal mass ejection. Okay, but before we even do this, we need to look at something else. Coronal mass ejections, okay, move at different speeds. An S-type CME moves at a speed less than 500 kilometers a second. C-types move at 500 to 1,000 kilometers, and so on and so on. Okay, and then to calculate the speeds, this is how you do it. The average speed of the CME in its journey between the Sun and Earth is in millions of kilometers per hour. Answer: the Sun to Earth is equal to 150 million kilometers. Okay, the time is 4 days, so 4 times 24 hours is 96 hours. So the speed is equal to 150 million kilometers. divided by 96 hours, which gives 1.5 million kilometers per hour. Okay, so once you have a speed, you can calculate and plot how long it will take for CME to reach a certain point. However, what is the average speed of a CME in its journey between Earth and Saturn in millions of kilometers per hour? Answer: distance is 1430 minus 150 equals 1280 million kilometers. That's 1,280 million kilometers, okay, to Saturn. Time equals 30 days times 24 hours or 720 hours. So speed will equal to 1.8 million kilometers an hour. So coronal mass ejections actually increase in speed the further away they get from the sun. They don't decrease. Okay. Having looked at this is interplanetary. This is called the interplanetary shock wave. I went back here and I calculated the distance, first of all, of Ison at 5.22 AU, and then I went back and backtracked how far back in time I would have to go in order to calculate in order to look for coronal mass ejections that would reach it at that time, at that date, and at that date and distance. Okay, so I calculated that I would need to look at anything between December 12th and the 18th of 2012 in order for a coronal mass ejection, for a mass ejection to reach it at that distance and at that date. And here we have said there were. Okay, let's read what it says here. First of all. Solar activity was at low levels with only several C-class flares. There was no Earth-directed CME detected, but a few C-type non-Earth-directed ones. Details can be found below. All right. Now let's keep in mind two things. Okay. Well, first of all, let's have a look at this because this is important as well. Okay, Lunar and Planetary Science Conference. Okay, you guys will all recognize this picture, anybody who's been following my videos, and I'm not going to read everything here. Here's where it mentions the 50,000 kilometer heliocentric distance, 5.22 AU, the Comet. Okay, but I'm not going to read all of that. It says conclusions. Well, I'll read that later. What's important here is that the date of January 6th, the picture of this thing was, that this picture was taken. That's how I calculated the distance and everything else. Then I went into stereo data, okay, and I started investigating actual stereo data to see if there were any C flares or anything popped. Actually, these C flares that were popped, I investigated, and to see if any of them were facing Ison. Now this is a stereo B image, so Earth would be on this side. Okay, this is stereo B. This is the behind image. So Earth is here. Ison would be out here somewhere. Okay, because it's on a highly tilted orbit. I'm not going to take you through all these images. You guys can go and have a look at all this stuff yourselves. I did not find anything that would indicate that Ison was hit by any kind of plasma discharges, any CMEs, coronal mass ejections. So it's what I was afraid of, that I missed something and maybe something expanded the coma and I didn't catch it. But having done the research on it now, I pretty much know. Now let's go here to the original article. In conclusion, say we have started a photometric monitoring program of sun-grazing comet C2012S1 Ison with medium-sized telescopes. So far, we have found that the comet exhibits cometary activity, but it has been very limited below 5.7 AU. The arrival to the right heliocentric distance to allow water ice sublimation has shown a progressive increase in the comet activity. Progressive increase observed in early January observations, which is January 6th right here. where was I? Let us hope. Let us keep hope in that this comet still can keep increasing in magnitude to become one of the brightest comets of the century. All right, now these guys started monitoring this thing long before 5.22 AU. Actually, they started it when it was still 6 AU and over, and further away. And they didn't notice any sudden brightening or any sudden expansion of the coma. So chances that I was going to find anything that impacted this comet prior in order to make it expand the coma so suddenly were slim to none, but I just had to do the research. I wanted to be thorough. I wanted to be complete. So basically my estimations and what I think is happening with this comet and the fact that NASA is lying to us, it all stands. 50,000 kilometer coma at 5.22 AU. That is half the size of Jupiter or the size of Neptune. And well, you guys know the rest of the story. Anybody that has seen my previous videos pretty much understands where I'm coming from, but I just had to be complete, and I had to look into the electric comet theory and make sure that it wasn't hit by anything. By the way, if anybody hasn't seen this video, I highly recommend it. Please have a look at it. This is the Canadian Greek. I'm out.